Jam. Toon Jam.
Hello and welcome once again to Toon Jam. I'm Matt.
And I'm Jonah.
And you have joined us once again for our swim through Adult Swim. Today we are talking about the last of the premiere shows, shall we say, the Brak show. So we've been doing all of the sort of first wave of Adult Swim cartoons. This, as I said, being the last. So a bit of information about the Brak show. The Brak show is an American animated adult sitcom created by Andy Merrill, Jim Fortier and Pete Smith for Cartoon Network's late night programming block Adult Swim. The Brak show serves as a spin-off of the animated television series Space Ghost Coast to Coast, for which the show's creators originally wrote, and featuring recurring characters from Space Ghost Coast to Coast and Cartoon Planet. The series made its official premiere during the night Adult Swim officially launched on September the 2nd, 2001, and ended on December 31st, 2003, with a total of 28 episodes. On May 24th, 2007, a webisode for the series was released on Adult Swim, ending the series. So it was sort of, I think, it was cancelled in 2003. However, Adult Swim announced a bump on October 22nd, 2006, that the Brak show would return to production as an internet cartoon on the network's site. So they premiered with a single webisode, but no further webisodes were produced thereafter. Let's just check this. Oh yes, and it originally started as a parody of situational comedies, aka sitcoms. If you didn't know that, hey, fun fact right there. You probably don't, you know. But just like its sister show, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, the plot dissolved over time and became increasingly bizarre. So we watched the first episode, so it was in the height of its sitcom parody, I would say.
Yes.
Seemingly not as well received as the others then, I would say.
Yeah. Which
So-
is kind of odd because it's clearly sort of, it's very space ghosty in a way.
Yeah.
Just without the interview element, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's even got the characters of space, hasn't it? Like Zorak.
Yeah.
Is a pretty big character in both. So yeah, that is strange, but hey ho. I guess we will see if we can see why. So like I said, we watched the first episode called Mr. Bork Bagork, who is a chicken. Essentially, Brak is a kid in a family household who's mates with Zorak, and they go and steal their enemy school's mascot. And Brak's left to deal with it. That's essentially the premise of this episode.
Yeah.
Say no more. Had you watched the Brak show before?
Yeah, I think I'd watched like the first series or something, or like whatever it was that was. I watched a bunch of episodes at some point.
Yeah.
And then, but I hadn't seen this fancy webisode that they put up.
Oh, the final episode.
Yeah.
Webisode.
So yeah, I had seen bits before. I think I was in some sort of. I used to watch a lot of Adult Swim stuff on their site because they do host a lot of stuff actually on their website still. Now, if you're listening and you're like, where can I watch some of this stuff? A lot of it is just on adultswim.com.
Yeah.
So check it out there. So they used to host their animations and some of their live action stuff on there. And I went through a phase of just like working my way through shows like, oh, I've not seen this. And obviously, you know, Brak B very early on in the alphabet. So I hit that pretty quick. Yeah, and gave that a whirl and enjoyed it. But what about you?
No, I'd never seen it before, which is weird. I loved Space Ghost Coast to Coast, but never watched this at all. I don't know if it's just because it didn't have Space Ghost in it.
Yeah.
But I'd never even seen it on. I don't like the others. I remember being on Cartoon Network. But then this and Aqua Teen, I don't remember being on Cartoon Network over here.
No, it's very odd, like what shows we have got and what shows we didn't.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I've ever seen like
In fact,
until
the only one I really remember being on was actually C-Lab. Like even Harvey Birdman, I saw that later on DVD.
Yeah, I never saw that on TV.
So it was only C-Lab that I remember being on Cartoon Network, and obviously Space Ghost. So maybe that's why I'd never seen it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I missed this completely. You may have known from, I think it was last week when I thought it was a talk show like Space Ghost.
Yeah.
But it isn't. Absolutely isn't that at all. So yeah, it was entirely new to me.
What were your first impressions going in then on this one?
I knew that it was a spin-off of Space Ghost because I remember Brak from it, but I don't really remember. I just remember what he looked like.
Yeah.
So the character is a proper like loser.
Yeah.
Which I'd forgotten. But so you sort of see his family. So it starts off. It's clearly a sitcom because it's got that stupid intro with all of them.
Yeah.
And who's playing them. Which that was weird alone because the characters almost. It was weird seeing the names next to them.
Yeah.
Because you were just like, that's Zorak, not whoever the voice is for Zorak.
Yes, you might.
Yeah, like you'd expect it to be like, this is Brak, this is Zorak.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It made no difference to the episode, obviously. But then they're all in his house, and it's clearly a daft thingy. But it's immediately got that stupid Adult Swim vibe because his mum looks like him.
Yeah.
Like some sort of alien, but his dad is just an Italian man. Which
he's dead weird,
and he's weirdly small as well.
Yeah, he's like really tiny.
But not like he's not just short. He's just proportionally small.
Like he's been hit by a shrink ray.
Yeah. But only so he's just sort of 2/3 the size he should be.
Yeah, like he looks dwarfed by the normal size chair he's sat in.
I thought he was brilliant.
He is really funny.
He's the best thing about it, the dad.
Yeah, which is funny because I think that's George Lowe, isn't it? That's Space Ghost.
Yeah.
So it's just like, which is hilarious because he doesn't sound anything like Space Ghost.
No, not at all. The Italian accent helps.
Yeah.
But he's well good, and obviously Zorak is a welcome addition to anything.
That's it.
And I think the thing I noticed early on, it didn't feel like there was when I finished watching it, I couldn't imagine. It felt like something that should just be one sketch. It seemed weird that there'd be more of them.
Yeah.
I think because Brak as a character, it's weird that he's a main character.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel like a main character. It feels like he should be like a side character that perhaps is like if Zorak was the main character, he'd make a good side character. But you couldn't do that because Zorak's such a good side character as well.
Yeah.
Because he's too horrible to be the main character.
Yeah, it'd be a grim sitcom with Zorak at the helm.
Yeah, but it does have that humour that is just super space. It's just really nonsensical. Kind of just goes on. So they're walking down the street, and then they just see his neighbour, who's another ridiculous character from Space Ghost or whatever character, whatever old show, who has some massive evil lair house, but he also is really good. He's got a really nice garden. It's sort of what is it, landscape of the year or something?
Yeah.
Yard of the year. And then he's like, we better not ruin this garden. And Zorak's already got a flipping pneumatic drill going up and down.
It's like jackhammering the earth up straight away. Yeah.
It's just got stupid humour like that, which really is pretty hilarious.
Yeah. If it's up your street, then it's always turned up all the way, isn't it? Like, so
Yeah.
you enjoy it. Like when Brak's brother just walks across the kitchen and then just like farts. And, like,
That's all he does.
yeah.
It's weird. It doesn't matter how old you are. Fart gags are just
I know.
eternally hilarious. Why are they so
about that sound is just.
It's like everything about it, though, and it's like the sound, the fact that it's like rude.
Yeah.
But we all do it. There's something weird about it. It's the fact that why is it rude? Because you can't help it.
No.
But it is, and it just makes it so much funnier. And the noise is just so.
It's like.
Because it is like he's walking across like.
His dad's just like, yes, good to see you.
Yeah. But it's just those little gags, like when Zorak's like, "Oh, hey, are you like we're going out today?" And then the dad's like, "Where are we going?"
Yeah.
Mum says, "I think he means Brak," and he's like, "I know, I'm not stupid," and then just reads the paper because he clearly has thought he meant him.
Yeah.
But it's just such a pointless joke that it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's a really it's very. I don't know. I think because Brak is so naive and such a weird little like kid of a character that like everything else is equally funny because he's got like no clue what's going on. So like you kind of see, or because there's again like more background stuff, like there's like a giant monster tearing up the neighborhood and stuff.
Yeah,
like,
just like that child drawn it.
Yeah, so there's loads of stuff that Brak just doesn't pick up on, which makes it more funny because it's like, and obviously the dad's clueless as well. So there's loads of things where like they aren't said, but they're like hinted at, or background little things, or just visual gags that go over the characters' heads that you can just like chocolate to yourself as well. That like give it a sort of unique spin, which are quite cool. But I think Brak kind of reminds me of he's like South Park did an episode where like it was like the Butters show.
Yes,
and they're kind of like the same character, where it's like they're just these very immature, like happy-go-lucky kids essentially.
Yeah, like pure innocent.
Yeah, and they're just slowly manipulated by the world into doing dodgy things, like, which is I think it's not always like it's kind of unique in a way. You don't always see it from that perspective. And like for saying that Brak wears a mask and he looks kind of like a monster, he is very much a child.
Yeah, but that's you've hit the nail on the head. He is like Butters, which I think is why it's kind of like he feels like a side character so much.
Yeah.
As opposed to a main character, because I suppose you already know the side character. It's more familiar. But yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I can see why it didn't last as long as the others.
Yeah.
And it seems strange. So like it ran till 2003, and then they bought one episode back in 2007.
Why would they do that? It's really odd.
It's just like they were waiting on it. But like now, I suppose there's no. We've said it before. I mean, I guess we'll double check when we go over the newer episodes in sort of the next block. But there's none of these left. These sort of Space Ghost echoes. Which is weird because it's kind of like Adult Swim was built on Space Ghost.
Yeah.
Like that's where it all came from, wasn't it? Really. And it's strange that it's also strange that did they ever make any Space Ghost episodes for Adult Swim?
I don't know.
I don't think they did.
No, I don't think they did.
They just sort of they made it all the Space Ghost stuff and then moved on. It's strange that so much came out of it, yet it never actually appeared on Adult Swim.
Yeah.
I suppose they did those live episodes, didn't they? Like where he was dressed up as Space Ghost.
Oh yeah, like Space Ghost on the street.
Yeah. But I think, yeah, like when I compare it, I mean, because you're gonna compare it to Space Ghost, because it's the same people, it's a spin-off show, it's got the same characters in. It doesn't quite hold up for me. I can see why it didn't last as long. In a way, because I think because it's got all the same characters in, you're kind of like, oh yeah, this is cool, but I really kind of want to be watching Space Ghost.
Yeah, it's almost too close.
Yeah, and Space Ghost is such a good character. It's a shame to not have him there.
Yeah,
because he was sort of the linchpin, and even though he's got this weird thing where he was the really stupid straight guy to it all, that wasn't really a straight guy, but he just desperately wanted to be.
Yeah. Yeah. You sort of missed the magic of that interview as well. Like that was always it was always baffling having like the live action feed in there of like actual people being interviewed by him and being like, how did they do this in the cartoon? I'm sure we've tackled this before, but you know, to this day I still don't know. So
no, it's
it's still a mystery.
Maybe he dressed up as him and then they just over. But yeah, it's good, isn't it?
And that always made it like extra cool to just be like, oh look, there's whoever, like from the early 2000s, there's the late 90s celebrity X.
Yeah.
And now Space Ghost chatting to him and trying to shoot them with his laser band.
I mean, it is crazy when you think about like Space Ghost. Now, so Space Ghost, all these characters in Space Ghost are from the original Space Ghost cartoon, and they've taken this property, and when you look at them, like of all of Hanna-Barbera's stuff, it's probably some of the most unique characters they came up with. So like Brak, Zorak, and all that, they're pretty interesting characters. Yet outside of this sort of renewed universe, you never see him. Like I wouldn't have ever known of him.
No.
Like Space Ghost, other than Coast to Coast, just sort of faded into nothing.
Yeah. It's very strange they didn't develop it more into something else, because I'd have definitely had I'd have wanted the Space Ghost playset where it's just like literally the room of the set of Space Ghost.
Yeah.
Could you imagine the figures?
Yeah.
Just have like Zorak's like little standover ear for where he can do the music, and then like you can have like behind you have with Moltar back in the editing booth, like
but I remember vaguely them showing the odd Space Ghost cartoon, like before actually like Coast to Coast,
right?
And because it was just so different.
Yeah.
I remember it being really rubbish.
I know. I always thought like, oh, they've just done that to like just be funny.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realise it was an actual cartoon beforehand. They're just like, oh, they've just done these stupid cartoon versions of it for a laugh before the actual show.
So maybe it was just a case of like they had some cool characters in there, but the show itself was, naff.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. But I do. Yeah. I mean, if you didn't like it when you were a kid. It must have been pretty dull.
Yeah.
Because, some of the stuff we've rewatched that I did enjoy as a kid, it takes a lot. I mean, maybe that's something we should just visit an episode of Space Ghost at the end of all this.
Yeah, and be like...
Space Ghost just to see what it's like. All right, then. Well, shall we move on to our reviews?
Yes. New from the Hanna-Barbera Life range.
You remember the Space Ghost Toasted Toaster? Well, what better to put on your Toasted Toast than Maltarmite? You'll either love it or you'll hate it.
And if you want to take Maltarmite with you, you can take every snack along with the Zorak and Brak snack backpack. Never forget a meal.
Speaking of meals, what better to have with your meal than Harvey Kurtzman and Whey? Harvey Kurtzman and Whey is good for you.
And if you've had too many meals, why not let those calories disappear in your Yogi Bear yoga wear. Stretch and exercise and breathe in yogi style.
Maybe after a long day of looking after the kids, they're gonna need to go. Well, the Scooby-Poo Where Are You potty is perfect for any child, and you'll never lose it.
And if things are looking grim in the potty, that's probably because you've had some Dick Dastardly mango and chutney. What a taste. It's a sweet treat that you'll always love to repeat.
The Hanna-Barbera Life range, available at all good stores now. So here at Toon Jam, we have a 3-point rating system that goes as follows. Thumbs up, jokes. Thumbs down, jokes that aren't funny. And shaky middle, spin-offs. So good, bad. I'm not really sure how I feel about that. That's essentially the 3-point system. So the Brak show, your thoughts?
Yes. Well, yeah, I think from the get-go, it's a pretty fun. It's a fun spin on the sitcom with there's some of the stupidest characters you've probably ever seen. Like his family is very non-conventional. Like Brak as a character is a bit weird, but I think the more you watch of it, you start to appreciate just how much of a naive idiot he is most of the time, which becomes funnier as things go on because you'd think he'd get smarter, but it seems that's not the case, even within the length of this episode. And then having Zorak in there to mix things up is pretty good because you've got an instant villain that's just hanging around with the protagonist, which is something that you don't really get all the time because he's pretty horrible, Zorak. Overall, it's not quite Space Ghost level, I don't think, but Space Ghost sets a pretty high bar.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think this is still quite enjoyable, I think. And it's a fairly simple premise, but what it does pretty well. So for me, I think it's going to be a thumbs up.
Okay, well, for me, I do agree with you. It's really funny. I did laugh a lot. Obviously, I've only seen this episode, and I can imagine, having read what I've read about it, that it sort of ditches the sitcom, the close to sitcom idea, and just becomes a bit more its own thing, and develops the character a little bit more. It probably does get better, and it's not in any way bad, but I did feel a bit like I say, it was a bit like just a sketch that should be left on its own. I'm not bothered about watching any more of it. As much as I enjoyed it, still, it just wasn't something I just didn't feel that invested in it.
Yeah.
In any more than just a couple of laughs. So I would be interested in watching more, but only because of what we know now and what I've read and the fact that you've watched it and stuff. So if I'd have watched this when it come out, I might have been like, oh yeah, it's interesting. If it was on, I'd have watched it, but I wouldn't have gone out my way for it. So for me, I'm going to be a shaky middle.
Ooh.
But it's a high shaky middle.
Yeah.
Getting towards thumbs up, but just not bothered enough. And especially, I guess it's just also that kind of thing where knowing Space Ghost, it's like you say, it is a high bar.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it is there.
Yeah.
So it just
you can't help but compare the two, can you?
No, yeah, exactly. And especially when you compare it, because you're not just comparing it to Space Ghost, but the other ones we've watched. So Harvey Birdman. Yeah. That was a spin-off, but it did its own thing in such a good way.
Yeah.
That you're not sitting there watching Harvey Birdman like, oh, I'd rather just be watching Space Ghost than this. And it does feel a lot like Aqua Teen Hunger Force in a way, like the premise and stuff.
Yeah, it does.
but it's just not quite as good.
Yeah.
So it has all that, like, it's things that it can't really help going for it. But as a blog, because it's almost like a series of pilots, like, look at all these. For me, this was like the weakest.
Yeah.
But still, 1 thumbs up, 1 shaky middle, not too shabby.
That's it. Still,
an excellent,
still good, right?
yeah, a good start for Adult Swim. So can it keep it up?
That's it.
We will find out on our next few episodes. I mean, we have watched one recent version of Adult Swim, being Primal.
Yeah.
And we did really like that, so it's a good sign.
That's it.
But we shall see. We shall see. Otherwise, thanks again for listening today and joining us. I hope it was enjoyable for you. If you did enjoy it, please feel free to rate and review us. It really helps us out. And if you could tell a friend about it, that's amazing. Maybe they will enjoy it too. If you would like more episodes, you can go over to our Patreon, which should be on our social medias, where you will find us on the trio of pneumatic drills on your garden at Toon Jam Pod. On Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. However, all that's left to say is thank you, and until next time, you stay jammy.
Hey everyone, thank you for listening. If you want to help the show keep going, you can be extra jammy by heading over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/toonjampod. Here you can get a shout out on the show or unlock bonus episodes. Ratings and reviews anywhere you listen to the podcast also really help us out. So thank you, and stay jammy.